Well, welcome back to It Matters. It's time for our local business review. And every week, it's been really fun because we have guests that come into the studio from the SBDC. We've got Wendy Hendricks, who's actually a friend of mine from my hometown, Princeton. She's from Agency North Real Estate. And we've got another special guest joining us this week. First of all, everybody, welcome to the show. Thank you all for being here. As always, I appreciate that very much. We want to welcome Stacey Rogers to the show. She's an Australian. Stacey, thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We have a really interesting story about Stacey. She's been living in the U.S. since 2018 when she immigrated to be with her husband. And in Australia, she was a lawyer who worked for the government for 5 years, about to finish her master's degree in law so she could become an attorney in the U.S. And we're so glad to have you here because now you are working with Family First Immigration Services, which has just celebrated its 1-year anniversary and has served over 800 people in its first year. So I know nothing about this because it's a year old. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I started this because I am myself an immigrant, of course, and I recognized an unmet need in the community for professional immigration services that were affordable. So most immigrants have access to lawyers who cost between $3,000 to $5,000, but there's really not a lot of access to other professional help. So what that has created is a rift where there's a 12% denial rate on average over the last 5 years of immigration applications for family-based immigrants. So what that means is there's about 75,500 immigrants per year that, face either deportation or face delays in coming to be with their family. So, that's difficult for families because it's not just the 75,500, it's also their friends, their spouses, their sons, daughters, all of the relatives. So that's what inspired me to start Family First, and we offer affordable help to those immigrants who need it.
Wow, and trying to get the word out there, right? You've been able to help 800 people in the first year. And so now it's like, let's get that word out there to find out. I mean, you think about that's got to be heartbreaking for families when they're trying to get together and they don't realize these big hurdles and trying to overcome. It's just got to be a gigantic one. So tell me about those hurdles that make applying for a visa difficult.
Yeah, so the main hurdle for people is that there's a sea of misinformation on the internet. So if you're going to try and do it yourself, what you get faced with is every single page that you open has something wrong, some misinformation, and then suddenly you're trying to sort through what's correct and what's not correct. So that is one of the biggest hurdles in terms of the paperwork. The way I'd say the biggest hurdle overall is the emotional difficulties. Myself, I'm kind of, obviously I'm a document preparer and I help do these forms, but more than anything, I've become a bit of an emotional coach because it is so difficult. You sort of, if you're in the country, you feel like there's no progress and there's no end. You're waiting for a work document, you can't work, you can't drive most of the time. So it becomes very depressing and difficult for people's mental health, and also especially straining on relationships and, different family dynamics because you can't do those activities and there's no freedom. So and then from outside of the country, you're obviously away from the people that you love, and that's quite emotionally distressing. And especially in the last year or two where the time frames for processing have really increased. And someone waits around 2 years on average to actually be able to come to the country with their family. So, if you're just married, or even if you're away from your parent who, obviously there's not a lot of time with parents. The time goes on and they get old, and so there's that time that's leaving you. You might be away from your children who are back in your home country, or your child is here with one of your relatives, and that time is wasting away too. And then you add 2 years onto that. It's very emotionally distressing.
As you being and looking at this field and being an immigrant here yourself, Is there really a reason it has to take this long? I mean, why does it have to take years for these kind of things to be accomplished?
That's what I was just thinking.
I mean, is it
you know,
lack of, Jeff McMahon and I were just talking about this. Is it lack of employees because of the reason? But it seems to me like it's always been, pre-COVID or not, it's always been this very big, long, difficult time frame for people to get things done.
Yeah, I mean, certainly in the last 2 years, it's gone from around, possibly 8, 10, 12-month process to that 2-year process. So it doesn't need to take that long. It's just that the embassy shut down.
Oh.
You know, there was no workers. They went on minimal staff. The time frames and the processing times are largely because of the COVID backlogs, and then the original processing times. Obviously, they have to do things like security checks and background checks and everything like that to make sure that the safety and security of the country is maintained. But certainly those things they definitely don't take months. They take maybe weeks. So, it's certainly not something that needs to be taking as long as it is.
Yeah. And I wonder, is it because we do have lack of staffing still? Is it that still an issue with it?
Yeah, I mean, possibly. I can't say that for sure, but I will say that, so there's a few processes, and one of those processes within this, the form filling and going through the immigration process is with the National Visa Center. And so they help people outside of the country, and they issue the visas for the outside applicants. And so they have recently brought on some new staff members, which is very helpful, but it has also brought its problems because there are a lot of errors being made with document checking and things like that, which, so we'll see a beginning slowdown with a few people's processes. In the long term, it will be better for the overall processing.
Oh, there's a lot here to talk about, isn't there? What about you, yourself, and getting your own business started? Did you have any hurdles that you ran into? What was it like getting it started?
So I worked with the Small Business Development Center here in St. Cloud, and I was thinking about this a little bit the other day. There wasn't so much hurdles for me because I had so much support and help, but I think personal hurdles and breaking down my own confidence barriers and kind of expanding my mind to think of different ideas and to be open to different things. I would say that would be one of the barriers or the challenges that I faced. And I still continue to face those. Every day you face a new challenge, and, you're challenging your own ideas, beliefs, and everything like that in business.
Sure.
So I would say that would be it.
Lorraine, now, have you worked with Stacey yourself personally over at SBDC at all?
Well, she was Barry's client, but
Okay.
I was familiar, had several conversations with her throughout her process. And, I think that it's very impressive for her to have established an online business. And she was, in that 1 year time, able to fire her husband as her admin assist and hire 2 actual employees. I mean, I just think that that's a phenomenal, most people that try to get an online business started don't have that kind of track record.
Sure, absolutely. And I'm sure that you guys do try to help people that have immigrated start businesses here too, right? I mean, you guys are a resource for those people as well.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah.
So, as she was pointing out, earlier she was telling us that really she's only helped, 3 people in Minnesota? I mean, because it is an online process.
Mm-hmm.
So she's helping all of these people from all over.
Yeah.
And Wendy and I were asking her actually about, how is there communication issues?
Yeah.
And you want to share kind of what you were explaining tool-wise that you use?
Yeah, so what we mean by communication issues is where they speak a different language. So very typically we'll get someone speak to us in either Spanish or that's the primary language, but, there are some others. So I have an admin assistant who speaks Spanish, which is thankful because, she gets on the phone with them and communicates with me what they've said, and then I just use Google Translate to get back to them. And same thing if they email in a different language, we would use Translate. So, I haven't faced too many communication barriers. Sometimes the Google Translate is a little bit dodgy, but, those barriers haven't been too big because of technology, thankfully, but it's definitely an interesting way to communicate with people.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'd love to, get the word out, though, to more Minnesotans or people that have moved here to find this kind of assistance, right? I mean, this is something that will really open a door for a lot of people and help them and make them happier and get them out there working. You know, I think a lot of times people don't understand why people are here. They're wanting to go to work. Why aren't they working? Because they can't. They can't do it.
Well, and
right?
I can see how hard it is. I mean, look how difficult it is. And then coming, not speaking a language. I mean, and there's so much red tape with all the, government offices and short staffing. So to have a resource like yours is so valuable.
Yeah, I'd like to know too, when you think about creating this business, I mean, that was going out on a limb a little bit, right? Like, this is a necessary thing. Is no one else doing this? Am I going to be the one that has to start this? And you took it upon yourself, and now you have this going. What's the thing that you like most about what you do?
I love connecting with people. For me, as a lawyer in my country, it's not something that in the past I was tasked with, just because we do complex work. We apply the law to different situations, so the form preparation side of it, that's the easy side of it, but connecting people and hearing their stories, and at the end of the day, being able to be satisfied that you helped that person, and especially if it's work related, helping them expedite their work permit, for example. They might be in dire straits. I can't tell you how many times I've been on the phone with someone and they've told me that, hey, look, we're not going to meet our bills next month if I don't get a job. And then we help them expedite their work permit. And at the end of the time, is that we become so connected that we're on the phone crying with each other in happiness that they've got their work permit and they're going to work, or finally they've got some certainty that they'll be with their family members with their green card. It's so nice to just be able to have that satisfaction that you're helping someone set their new life up in the country, where it can be really disorienting to be in a new country, and if you can be a part of that in some way and help along that process, then that's really rewarding.
I think about, too, a lot of the stories of the people that are coming here, why they are immigrating to the United States. I'm sure you hear a lot of those stories, too. Like, yes, this has been incredibly difficult, but maybe from where they're coming from, this is the absolute best option, and it was harder there, and they're really trying to make it here, to make a new home for themselves in a safe place. Do you hear that story a lot?
For me personally, because I'm dealing a lot with, family-based, and it's more that they're coming for their spouses, not so much.
Okay.
I do get a little bit of that, from outside the family-based realm, where they need some different help with other things. But there are a lot of people too who were displaced from their countries from COVID. So possibly the whole country kind of went into turmoil and they moved somewhere else. And so now, potentially their family with the US citizen or the US permanent resident is waiting outside of the country to come in. And so they have to wait that 2 years with their family. That there's no choice. They might have young kids. So there's a lot of stories like that too, which are sad, and you sort of just want them to be home and be settled.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why don't you tell us why you came here?
Yeah, we'd like to know that story.
So I met my husband online and did a few back and forth trips, and then, essentially I came on a couple of visits and started the process from outside of the country. I was actually doing the overseas spousal visa, and then I came back for another visit, and my husband unfortunately got in a little bit of a situation for himself and ended up in hospital for 6 weeks. So suddenly I'm switching to the internal process. So my story is a bit of a whirlwind. I'm trying to sell my car from the US and trying to organize the sale of my home and all those things while trying to deal with my husband's health. But, here we are almost 4 years later, and I have a little boy, and, it's all going very well.
That is wonderful. So wonderful.
Now, do you get to go back and visit often or not often?
I have not been back. So it's been almost 4 years since I've seen my family. My mom is coming in 3 weeks. So
I'm so happy for you.
Yes, yeah, I'm so happy she'll meet my little boy, and that will be really exciting. It's kind of surreal because we haven't seen each other for so long. But I fell pregnant, and it was right around the time of my own immigration interview. So there's no, leaving at that point. And then she was supposed to come for the birth of my little boy, but COVID hit, and 3 weeks before he was born, all of the flights were cancelled and everything went into shutdown. And so Australia only opened it was February or March this year. So, and then my mum had some of her own situations. So we're finally now just getting to see each other.
Well, that will be wonderful.
Yeah.
I know you're going to hug probably for 2 hours straight. I'm sure she's so excited to spend some time with your son. Oh, meeting him. So what is next for you in your business? I mean, this has been a learning curve year for you, right? Helping these 800 individuals or families. Have you already started jotting down notes on how you can help more or what you should expand?
Yes. So the first thing, and the most recent thing that we're going to do is partner with the Central Minnesota Community Empowerment Organization, which will start next week. We're going to do some immigration clinics, so that will be exciting for the community. In terms of the broader immigration community around the country, we do have some things in the pipeline, some industry first things actually that will really help the community with their immigration, and it's targeting the community who wants to do it themselves. With our help. So yes, there are some things in the pipeline and some expansions. The other thing is I'm about to sit my bar exam in February. So I will be transforming into a law firm and be able to expand my services into more legal services, which is very exciting.
Oh, so exciting. Stacey, this was so much fun having you on the show today. It's Stacey Rogers, CEO and founder of Family First Immigration Services. And if people are interested in contact you, needing information, or maybe for friends, people that are living here that maybe need your services, how would they find you?
Yeah, so they can call our office number, which is 507-271-9405. We're on Facebook under Family First Immigration Services, and our website is www.familyfirstis.com. So all of those places they could find us.
Boy, this was interesting, wasn't it?
You are so inspiring.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are, Stacey.
And we're seeing a theme here with the guests we've had on that's what entrepreneurs are all about. Is they find a need, often from their own experience,
passion,
and then create a business from it. So, which is why you connect so with your clients, and you care. It's not just paperwork and forms. I mean, you actually care. I think that's so wonderful.
Well, thank you all for being here. And Stacey, best of luck. We hope that you'll be back on the show again, and hopefully we'll be able to help a lot of people here all across the U.S. with what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's Stacey, Lorraine, and Wendy and Kelly for our local business review today. We'll be back next week with more for you.